Hey, you. Yes, you. Have you been telling people about the very enjoyable readings of Army of Sin? Or are you keeping all the goodness to yourself? Come on, be a good sport and share it. There's definitely enough story to go around. Greetings, Army of Sin squad. Welcome back to another super duper episode of Army of Sin. I am, of course, your esteemed guide and host, S.K.A. Obasi. Calling me handsome for short is encouraged. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Today we pick up where we left off with the immortals in this episode titled The Divine Summons. So, roll those kinks out of your neck, take a nice, deep, calming breath, and allow me to teleport us back into the Army of Sin universe. Two great pairs of wings spread, clearing the dust and debris. In the middle of the beam hovered the archangel Gabriel. Her wings, all four of them, glowed softly in the dim confines of the abandoned warehouse. Huge wings, the color of pale moonlight, easily dwarfed those of the members of the hunting party, shrouded in row upon row of pure white feathers. She was dressed in a simple black dress that hugged her curves, sliding over powerful legs that flowed into leather mid-calf boots. Her hair, though held in a bun, reflected the same silvery glow as her wings. Her power was so immense that a physical aura had manifested itself as the very air around her shimmered. Skin grew tight over bones as Gabriel surveyed all who were gathered, gaze piercing through as the young angels dropped on bent knee in her presence. Even Baram, with his sunlit wings and fast tongue, was dumbstruck. Neither Crocel, Duma, nor Henri felt the same sensation as the younger angels present. Although the sheer power of the archangel warped the very air within the warehouse, their bodies had already begun to regulate the atmosphere around them. Call off your dogs, Crocel advised, resting her weight against her broadsword, point pressing into the concrete. Little sister, know your place, Gabriel boomed, her boots still not touching the ground. As for you lot, return to High Temple, she addressed the kneeling quartet. But the rebellion died within his throat as the leader of the fighters found the smooth, polished coffee of Gabriel's face mere inches from his own. Her presence, an invisible weight that cracked the ground beneath where he stood. Shall I repeat myself, young Aviel? Gabriel inquired sweetly, her soft, mental tone promising pain. Their faces blanched, ducking their heads once more before disappearing in the same fashion in which the archangel had arrived, bodies swathed in respective beams of light. Turning her back on the already disappearing angels, Gabriel's eyes swept over the remaining trio. Still here, I see. You are no longer my senior, Crocel spat, spine rigid as her voice warped with barely leashed anger. I will not tell you again, Gabriel replied conversationally, her mercury eyes glowing briefly before softly stepping upon the floor of the warehouse and folding in her wings. Fixing her gaze where Henri stood, she noted everything about him. Polished dark brown shoes, blood-stained shirt. Your presence is needed, brother. Will you come along? Henri felt Crocel rustled beside him. He owes your kind nothing. All of this unwillingness to cooperate, it bores me. You will fulfill your duty, Gabriel replied, a second comment directed to Henri. Henri spun to Grosel a fraction of a second late, arm thrown out in the hope of restraining her charge. His fingers came away with nothing but a baby blue feather. The gust of wind she left in her wake seeped through the material of his shirt, chilling him to the bone. Genuflect, Gabriel uttered softly, looking at the incoming angel dispassionately, her voice echoing aloud and on the mental plane. Crocelle crashed to the ground, her baby blue colored wings twisted at odd angles. She uttered no sound, although Henri knew pain had to be lancing through her entire body as an invisible force brought her to her knees. The silent angel, Duma, rushed to her side even as she visibly struggled to breathe through the pain, eyes brimming with the promise of retribution. The Archangel Gabriel smiled in response to the look on the blue winged angel's face, shaking her head in aged amusement. I have no quarrel with you, Archangel, but stay your hand, or I will be forced to intervene. Duma spoke softly, words barely heard over the snap of dense, angelic bones. Enough, Henri said, striding over to where Gabriel stood, arms loosely folded. His words fell on deaf ears as Crocelle attempted to fight the invisible force that held her pinned, face a mask of stubborn determination. That is enough, Gabriel, he addressed the silver-eyed archangel before clamping his hand upon her shoulder. You have made your point. The raw punch of power stole his breath, racing from the point of contact with her skin to the tips of his toes before rocketing up through his skull. Fighting through the days of power, he breathed deeply in hopes of saving his friend. All the while, the realization dawned that while he had regressed in his scale of power, exiled from his kind, Gabriel had grown even more powerful. The heat of her power was now a searing burn upon the senses. Have I now? The archangel asked, silver dusted lashes raising slightly, not an ounce of remorse on her face. Henri felt Crocelle rustle beside him. He owes your kind nothing. All of this unwillingness to cooperate. What the? Henri thought, mind jolting with the uncanny knowledge of exactly what was to come. Stepping into Crocelle's attack path, he caught the shocked looks from both angel and archangel, who could not fathom how well he had anticipated the next step. There is no need for conflict. I will come. Yup, you guessed it. Henri has the gift of foresight. However, he can't channel it on command, so that's why you would see both he is shocked as the scene is replaying. He is indeed quite the interesting character, yet nowhere near his former glory. The plot thickens. Surprise, suddenly replacing serenity, Gabriel regally inclined her head in agreement. With a sweeping gesture of her arm, she stood ready to usher him towards their destination. Henri turned slowly, gaze locking with eyes the same shade as the deep blue of the sea, against skin the color of smooth marble. Her eyes held an aching sadness mixed with a deeper, more violent rage. He shook his head slowly. Raising his hand to slowly cup her cheek, he whispered, "It has to be done." The sound of a palm hitting flesh was loud in the quiet of the warehouse as Crocell halted his attempt at contact, knuckles stark with the grip around his forearm. "Just what do you think you're doing?" Henri heaved a sigh, knowing he would not have the time to explain, not while the Archangel Gabriel stood waiting over his shoulder. "Meet me at the old man's farm in 3 days. Will you?" "Are you ready, Duma?" Crocell called over her shoulder. The angel, with eyes that melted from black to pure white, came soundlessly to stand at her side, eerie eyes staring without expression. "Will you meet me there, Crocell?" Henri asked once more. "Go. Do what you must." Crocell dismissed him. It was neither a confirmation nor a refusal, but he would take it. "When the sun dips halfway beneath the horizon, I shall look for you," he said, before turning to walk over to where Gabriel waited. The last he saw of the old abandoned warehouse, before one of Gabriel's wings curled around his body, was Crocell's very slow nod. End of episode. Another ending, another set of questions that require answers. Not to worry, tune in to next episode to see where Henri finds himself transported in an episode titled Conversations Between Immortals. Before I go, I invite you, if video podcasting is your thing, of course, to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Handsome Reads. Subscribe to the YouTube channel linked in the bio or by typing Handsome Reads in the YouTube search bar. Be sure to smash that like button if you've enjoyed today's episode, and feel free to leave a comment or word of encouragement. Until next time, and as always, love and light.